Welcome back to the Shadows. I'm Dr. Insomnia. Tonight's dose of darkness might just keep you wide awake.
When I was 10, my parents sent me to a rundown summer camp nearly 4 hours from the nearest town. It was my first time away from home, and the place felt ancient. Squeaky bunk beds, chipped paint, and dense woods that seemed to swallow sound. Not long after unpacking, a few of us wandered into the forest just beyond the cabins. The camp rules were so loose. Explore as much as you want, just stay where you can still see the cabins, they said. So we did. That's when we saw him. Through the trees stood a ragged-looking man, half hidden behind an old pine. We froze. He just stared, not moving, then cracked a crooked grin when one of my friends nervously waved. We thought maybe he was a weird counselor, but back at the mess hall we told the staff. All young college kids themselves, they got deadly serious. They searched the woods for over an hour, but came back empty-handed, telling us it was probably a hiker. 4 nights passed. Then everything changed. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to a faint rattling. I lay still, listening. The door handle of our cabin jiggled softly, then harder, like someone trying to force it open. A thin beam of light swept across the wall above my bunk. I wasn't alone anymore. Other kids were awake, frozen in their beds, wide-eyed. Outside, footsteps crunched in the dirt. The light kept circling the windows, back and forth, back and forth. We held our breath as the intruder circled the whole cabin, pausing at each window. Then, silence. Morning came, but none of us had really slept. We told the counselors everything. That's when another kid from a nearby cabin added more horror to the story. He'd gotten up to use the outhouse and saw a man, the same scruffy figure from day one, crouched by our cabin door, trying to pick the lock. Panic swept the camp. Parents were called, and by evening buses rolled in to take us all home. They told us it was for our safety and not to worry, but kids talk. Rumors flew that someone dangerous had been stalking the woods for days. Years later, older and curious, I dug up old news archives. There it was, a short, unsettling police report buried in local records. After we left, officers searched the woods and found a small weather-beaten tent not far from camp. Inside were hundreds of Polaroid photos, shots of the cabins, the lake, the fire pit, and us. Photos of kids taken through windows at night, sleeping, changing, completely unaware. They never found the man. Sometimes I wonder if he's still out there. Somewhere in the forests I once thought were just trees and trails. A ghost with a camera, waiting for the next busload of kids to wander too far.
One summer, my wife and I decided to squeeze in one last camping trip before fall. We picked a dispersed site I'd found years back, hidden, quiet, deep in the woods where almost no one ever went. When we arrived, I was annoyed to see it wasn't so secret anymore. A makeshift fire pit and old beer cans littered the ground. Not ideal, but not enough to ruin the trip. We cleaned up, pitched our tent, and built a proper fire. By dusk, it felt like ours again. We sat by the fire for hours, talking, laughing, sipping cheap whiskey under the stars. At some point, the forest around us went unnaturally still, but we were too busy soaking in the night to notice. Then, out of nowhere, a chainsaw. A roaring, angry engine somewhere out in the darkness. I looked at my wife. She stared back, eyes wide. Who cuts down a tree at 2 in the morning? Before we could process it, we heard laughter. Not joyful, manic, ragged. Like someone trying to scare whoever might be listening.
It worked. The sounds were far enough away not to feel immediate, but close enough to unnerve us. We doused the fire, crawled into the tent, and zipped it tight. Between us lay the only thing resembling protection, a rusty machete we'd brought for clearing brush. Minutes passed, then more chainsaw revving. Louder now. Then silence, abrupt, as if someone flipped a switch. We waited, breath held, for what felt like forever. Eventually, the silence lulled us. We drifted off, half believing we'd imagined it. I don't know how much later it was when I woke again, but I knew why instantly. Footsteps, crunching dry leaves, slow, unhurried. Then more. Not one person, but at least two, maybe three, moving just beyond the tent. My wife sat up, whispering if we should run for the car. I hushed her, squeezing the machete handle so tight my hand hurt. The moon was so bright it cast clear shadows through the tent fabric. And behind her, I saw them. 3 silhouettes, shifting back and forth just yards away. Seconds crawled by like hours. The shadows moved, paused, then finally faded into the trees. I didn't wait to see if they'd come back. We grabbed nothing, unzipped the tent as quietly as we could, sprinted for the car, and didn't stop until the dirt road turned to highway. We slept that night in a motel room we didn't care could barely lock its door. Come morning, curiosity or stupidity dragged us back. Our campsite looked untouched.
This story still crawls under my skin every time I think about it. It was supposed to be a simple getaway. 2 guys, the mountains, and nothing but crisp air and a sky full of stars. Jake had begged me for months. I'd never been camping before. No scouts, no summer camps. So, I finally gave in. We left early Saturday morning in Jake's old truck, packed with shiny new gear, a sturdy tent, warm sleeping bags, a little stove. He promised the best camping spots were the ones so deep in the Rockies you'd never see another soul. 3 hours of winding forest roads later, we found a clearing just big enough for 2 tents and a fire pit, surrounded by endless pine. By late afternoon, we had camp set up and enough wood stacked to last till dawn. As the sun sank behind the peaks, the chill set in. By 7, darkness swallowed us, leaving only our flickering fire. Jake grinned while roasting hot dogs, bragging that nothing tasted better in the wild. I was still adjusting to the night sounds. Distant rustles, twigs snapping, wind sighing through the trees. I told myself it was normal. Then, it came. A scream. Sharp, close, a woman's voice. "Help!" Then, seconds later, "No!" Cut off, mid-breath. We froze. Jake's stick slipped into the fire. The hiss of burning food was the only sound until silence pressed in. No footsteps. No cry for help. Nothing. Panic hit us both at once. Jake stomped the fire out, cursing. I fumbled with tent zippers, grabbing whatever I could reach. Flashlight, sleeping bags. We threw everything in the truck bed and tore out of there. The forest stayed dead silent, except for our shaky breathing. We bounced along the dirt track until Jake found a weak signal on my phone and dialed 911. Between static, he shouted, "We heard a woman scream, near Bear Creek. Send someone." The dispatcher asked us to stay, but Jake kept driving. When the trees thinned near the highway, my blood froze. A man stepped from the trees into our headlights, tall, hunched under a dark hood, dragging something heavy behind him. Jake slammed the brakes so hard the truck skidded,
The figure stared at us, then dropped the sack and vanished back into the woods without a word. I didn't want to look, but I did. We crept closer, hearts pounding. It was a canvas tarp tied with rope. Blood seeped through a corner. Jake untied it. The smell of copper and rot hit first. Inside was a woman, broken and lifeless. She'd been missing for days. We waited by the truck, headlights staring into the dark, until the sheriffs came. Radios buzzed, boots crunched pine needles. They searched, but never found him. If you're still here, maybe sleep isn't your friend anymore. This is Dr. Insomnia. Until next time, stay awake.